It's my G Gaming. Welcome to this G review for Hee Haw 2, the Hee Haw ending, also known as Red Dead Redemption 2, the sequel to the probably most successful thing Rockstar's ever done outside of Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, that sounds about right. Anywho, this one is a prequel, which means maybe not what you think.
What's that? No, sorry, I didn't hear you. Let me send over one of my friends to grab your message.
The basis of what it means is that you're following the gang lifestyle right before it hits rock bottom as it does in Red Dead Redemption OG. That means we get time with Dutch Vanderlyn and the Vanderlyn gang, which is a baker's dozen, I think maybe a couple more members. Most of them really good characters, and all of them have something to say to the new protagonist, Arthur Morgan. And of course, John Marston is there. You do get a lot of time with John, but mostly it's an Arthur and Dutch story, which is awesome as it helps give you a nice sense of, I guess, mental landscape going into the first game. And really, without the context of this game, the first game really does feel much more empty, much more paint by numbers Rockstar. And this, despite having some Rockstar isms in it, is anything but paint by numbers as far as the story's concerned.
Yeah, sure, just after I steal absolutely everything that's not nailed down.
And that's mostly thanks to the fact that I'm pretty sure Rockstar Games finally looked up the word subtle in a dictionary, and they were like, wait, we can use this? Hold on, we can use this? Well, yeah, let's use this then. As I said, this is Arthur Morgan and the Dutch Vanderlyn gang, who are on the run in the beginning after a botched job and have to hold out for winter until they have more opportunities to basically escape the growing federal government and Pinkerton system.
Sorry, boss, I like the look of that filly over there.
Which devolves and evolves into this operatic showdown of external forces surrounding the gang as well as each other changing as the world around them does the same. I've spoken before about how a game uses the massive or small amount of time that it has. You have games like The Division or, a lot of open world shooters that just take the time to line up rows and rows and rows of enemies and you just gun them down and you don't feel like your time has been well served there. Rockstar in Red Dead Redemption 2 here has taken that time, which can stretch over 100 hours for the main story alone, and has filled it to the brim with patience and subtlety and build-up, and then you get your payoff. You have time for sideways glances between Dutch and Arthur, or these subtle hesitations by John and Abigail. Everything can be meticulously placed and meticulously acted and meticulously rendered in this gorgeous open world where Rockstar would believe that absolutely everything has been sacrificed for the good of the story.
Yes, I'm Dr. Renard, proprietor of snake oil, wanted levels, dead horses, and giant hourglasses, don't you know?
So there's your shelf set up. Now how does it land? Which is a tricky answer that probably won't be fully summarized here. Dutch and Arthur are amazing. Their relationship carries the entire first half, really, of the experience, to where by time you get to where you're going in the around act or chapters, I think they're chapters, chapter 4 or 5, that is where you start to feel the weight of what they're trying to accomplish and how really far off it is, which leads to a huge, just emotional, bittersweet moment that I certainly won't spoil here for you, but it makes it seem like the entire journey was worth it. However, after that, immediately after that, without break for digestion or for even a bathroom crawl, you are flung into the epilogue, which, again, no spoilers here, but the epilogue goes on for longer and longer and longer to the point where you're like, okay, what am I doing here? Do you remember that first story that you were telling? Can we have some closure on that particular section? The overall issue I have with it, is everything feels too abrupt. You're changing gears too quickly to where you're slipping out and you're losing some horsepower. And then there's some familiarity that comes into play, and then just there are a lot of tiny needles that start prodding you and prodding your sense of how story should, or rather how you've imagined the story going, just in that epilogue. Whereas the first 40-50 hours of the story are amazing. They're full of content. They're overflowing with talent on every single aspect, with only, I'm talking about quibbles here. Pennies on the dollar as far as actual complaints in that section. But it's the ending that sticks with you. It's how you land it that can hurt you the most. That's why BioShock games are beloved, still, to this day, because of storytelling. And so Red Dead Redemption 2 just kind of leaves you with this, okay, we're gonna do this feeling straight on into Red Dead Online, which, by the way, does have its own story, and we'll get into that. But this is the highlight, and then this is the lowlight that we're left with, which just, it does a disservice. It feels like the game could not just have enough, and the studio just had to keep pushing and pushing and pushing their own pacing mechanic a little bit too far. Wanted for helping a Samaritan. It would take a 2-hour video to break down every single aspect of every single gameplay system that Red Dead Redemption 2 gives you, but let it be said, there are pluses and minuses to both committing way too much to and not committing enough to realism. Case in point, the wanted levels. My god, the damn wanted levels. Huh. So, hair loss runs in the family, I see. Their sensitivity is through the roof without a proper backstop to keep the world honest. In Grand Theft Auto, for instance, sometimes you will see policemen going after other criminals, especially in 5, although I think they did that in 3 too. I might be crazy. Anyways, you would see that. But here, if someone punches you in the face because you accidentally knocked into them, no wanted level, no police response whatsoever. But if you punch them, boom, $20 to $30 on your head, and you have to leave town in a hurry and get to the closest train station to pay off your bounty and hope that you don't get riddled full of bullets on the way. And it's not really death that ever scares you whenever you're doing these sorts of things, because death is more or less just a loading screen and meaninglessness. It's that this is the one huge, gigantic way where the world is just not listening to you. It doesn't care what you have to say on this topic. It is black or white, where everything else is usually so subtle. Thank you, wise vagrant of roads. The honor system is complete and total trash, as far as I'm concerned. It is a meaningless doll that they are hanging in front of your eyes that ultimately breaks down into kind of a different ending, but not even really, because the ending has other factors ingrained within it that are more important and lead to a much bigger split in your story's ending, which gives the honor system nothing really meaningful to do.
Where's the bathroom?
Gunplay is... it's fine. It's slightly above fine just because of Deadeye. Deadeye makes Red Dead Redemption 2 a much more simplistic shooter and a much more fun shooter when you break down to it. You also have a snap to aim whenever you click in the trigger, so you will not be able to find aim very well with these guns. And Arthur has kind of a recoil shock, if you will, if you fire too many bullets. So it's really best to just snap to aim, fire, snap to aim, fire, snap to aim, fire, because usually you're going to hit the upper torso or a headshot, which is great. Most of the time, enemies go down in those, despite those ones that are, for some reason, wearing invisible armor. The problem is that, not unlike Fallout 76, the Deadeye mechanic and shooting in general do not make good translators into an online game, because everyone has it, so no one can have it at the same time. So Deadeye is basically meaningless in Red Dead Online, which quite frankly is all the more reason to not really devote too much time to it, in my opinion. It's just not for me. It's the same as Grand Theft Auto 5 Online. It's just too sprawling. It's that single player feel in a multiplayer environment. It just doesn't do it for me.
Oh man, his act is falling flat.
Oh god, what else is there? Horse riding is great. You'll be doing a lot of it, so it damn well better be. Hunting is just needlessly complicated. They went over the top with it again, to where you have various levels of pelt, and you can only carry one giant pelt and or animal at a time. It's just constrictive. The dead guy's funnier than you! Red Dead Redemption 2 has the longest review I'm likely to ever write for any game ever because it is that massive. It does deserve a lot of praise and a lot of scrutiny for the work practices that led to this amazing open world. But that does not mean that everything gets a pass ever or that everything fits together perfectly. Oh, come on! Everyone's a critic in the Old West. And so that's why Red Dead Redemption 2 gets an 8 out of 10 from me. It could improve, it certainly could, so we'll see what happens. Thank you so much for listening and watching. I'll see you next time on myggaming.com. Bye, y'all!